Hey everyone, this is Disc Junkie and welcome to the first official episode of Discjunkie'S Bikes. Not really sure if that title is gonna stick, but that's what I'm going with for the moment. And so what happens is that I essentially picked up a brand new bike. I'm not generally that much into bikes. I bought a fat bike some years ago, which I haven't really been riding much. I ride it every now and then, but generally I'm not super sort of into bikes because I just don't have time. But the thing is that I spotted this listing on Facebook Marketplace, and it was a listing for a blank Diablo BMX. I believe it is a 2014 model, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Now, this was listed on the Facebook Marketplace here in Sweden for 2,000 Swedish crowns. That is roughly 200 euro. And then the seller had slashed the price down to 1,500, which is roughly 150 euro. Now, I wasn't really in the market for a BMX at the time. However, I was generally getting interested in BMX bike simply because, I'm a very nostalgic kind of person. I grew up in the 80s. I had a BMX when I was a kid, and I just really sort of felt excited about owning a BMX, maybe building one of my own that would be more sort of customized to be more usable by an adult, just as a sort of general cruising bike. I'm not really into making tricks or jumps or pump tracks or whatever, but I really like the aesthetic of the BMX bike as a bike. So I saw this listing, wasn't really too interested because it was a 20-inch bike, and that's generally not what I was looking for. I was hoping to get maybe like a 24-inch for starters, or maybe even something larger than that, even though it's technically not a BMX if it's larger than 24 inches, but there are sort of adult-sized BMX that's some sort of high-end company. Like, it's really generally expensive bikes just because people want to own a adult-sized BMX. But I'm rambling. So anyway, I wasn't really looking for a 20-inch bike. However, seeing as this was a listing which people hadn't really been looking at, it seems like it had sort of gone down in price, and it was actually right next to where I worked. So I messaged this guy just to sort of see if I could drop by and take a look at the bike, maybe take it for a test spin, because I've never really ridden a 20-inch bike as an adult, so I have no idea what this feels like, if it's even possible with me, with my old body. And so I asked him if I could come by to check it out. And then he told me that he had actually just given the bike away because he's had this listing for quite a while. And so just like the other day, like a couple of days before I messaged him, he had given this away to one of the local charity shops. And I was like, okay, could you tell me what shop this was? And so he gave me the name of this secondhand shop. And I messaged them and asked them if they had received this bike in the shop. And they were like gonna get back to me, and then they got back to me and told me, yeah, we got this bike here. And so I sort of figured like, okay, I'm gonna have to head on over to the secondhand shop because this was a local shop. So a couple of days later, after work, I sort of went there. I think it was like 2 days later, and I just dropped by. I told them before that I was going to come maybe look at this bike. So I went there, saw the bike, and it looked fine. So I asked them what they wanted, and they wanted 300 Swedish crowns. That is roughly 30 euro for a BMX blank Diablo. I don't know much about bikes, but I can tell you that it's definitely worth more than that, even in the used condition that it's in. But I've been talking about this for quite a while, so let's just go ahead and check out this bike. And I'm sorry if the video quality is a bit so-and-so, because I have to use a different frame rate for this video, because otherwise I'll get a lot of flicking from the lights. So I'm actually running this at 30 frames per second, but hopefully it will be okay. So this is the bike. Now, it's obviously not brand new, it's not in mint condition, it is a used bike. So as you can tell, it has quite a bit of sort of scuff marks, and it's apparent that this was a bike that's been heavily used. But generally, I would say that it looks like a bike which someone has taken care of. Like, looking at the chain, looking at like, it looks like it's run by someone who has serviced it. Obviously, they've also ridden it, so you can tell that like the paints are falling off, but not too much rust generally, I would say. And it looks like it has all of the original parts. And if you look at stuff like the sort of center hub and things, like, generally, I really think that the shape is not that bad. Obviously, you will get some damage and stuff, but like you see, there's really not a lot of rust. There's scuff marks and like the paint that's somewhat chipping off. Like up here we got some damages, but generally it's not in bad shape, I mean, for a used bike. And I gotta say that I just really liked the look of this bike. It seems like it has all of the original parts. You can see that it has the blank insignia and logo, like in the center hub. It's got it on the wheels, even on like the little seat post clamp here. Got the original blank seat on it, which has a bit of damage actually, so I'm actually going to replace this, I think. And then over here, got like the logo. Here we got the front wheel, same center hub. Now it does have a little bit of damage. There is actually one of the spokes there, which has broken off, so I'm gonna replace that. Got the original, handles to them. Also has the little blank logo, and there's a lot of little details like that, which, obviously it is worn. I mean, no one's gonna dispute that, but I mean, come on, for 30 euro, it was like, I'm gonna be an idiot if I'm passing that up. I mean, for that price, I can buy a bike and I can leave it in the garage and not ride it and just take a look at it every now and then, because it's actually quite a cool looking bike. And yeah, this was a no-brainer. I just figured, even if I decide to sell it or if I don't want it, I can probably sell this at a, better price, so I can probably get money back for this. But before I do that, I just felt like, you know what? I would actually like to experiment a little bit with this bike, see if I can get it to a place where I actually want to ride around on it. And the thing is that this is obviously a bike which is meant to be used for pump tracks or for, riding on ramps, doing tricks and stuff like that. And I mean, come on, I'm 42 years old. I don't really plan to go into that sort of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just don't see myself as much of a guy who would do that kind of stuff, because generally I'm not, my body feels like it breaks when I turn around. I don't like, generally I just want this bike because it's a cool looking bike. It's a very nostalgic feel for me, having, grown up in the 80s as a kid. I just love the look of the BMX. So this was sort of a starting point, because this is also part of why I was looking for BMX bikes in the first place. It was primarily about the fact that I really wanted to build a BMX of my own, like being one which is adult size, that you can use more as a sort of beach cruiser, but it has the BMX aesthetic to it. So that was my original thought of why I was looking for BMX listings to begin with. And then I saw this and just felt like, things happened and I just bought it because it was so cheap. However, some of the things that I would like to change on this bike is that, first of all, I desperately need to replace the seat post. Now, there's nothing wrong with the seat post. However, if I'm gonna ride this is a trick bike. You're not, this is like impossible. I mean, I'm 180 centimeters roughly, so I wouldn't call myself a really tall person, maybe average, a bit above average, but you're not gonna be able to use this bike for cruising, because this seat post, which is 25.4, if I don't remember correctly, this is not a very long seat post. So yeah, that's like the maximum you can bring it up. And if I'm gonna sit on this, my legs would be like, bent over. So yeah, at the risk of sort of changing the original appearance and giving it a quite different sort of aesthetic, I've decided to replace the seat post. That is my first sort of change to this bike, and I've actually ordered a seat post and went for a really long one. I haven't received this yet, but we will get this in the next few days, so I'll probably get back to that. So that is my first thing that I'm gonna do, and this also means that I will probably have to replace the seat. Now the seat does have a little bit of damage, like I told you, so I don't mind. And this is also one of those seat post models which has the or like the saddle has the seat post integrated into the seat, like just like a pole into this plastic mold. So I don't think you can take this apart, or if you can, it's not a seat that is pivotal, like you can't pivot it back and forth, and that is something I would like to do. So I bought some parts to get a new sort of seat post clamp, and I even found a free seat actually at a recent car boot sale. It was a giveaway seat, which was a cheap brand, but it looked like it was an okay shape. And it's a different model with the rails on it, so we're gonna get back to that and try to replace the seat. and the seat post. Now, aside from that, there's not too much that needs to be done in order to get this into a sort of rideable mode, if you will, for me, given my length. One of the things I might mention is, of course, that it has a broken spoke on the front wheel, so we are going to replace that. I actually have a replacement spoke already, which I also got for free from one of my neighbors who runs like a sort of home kind of bike service thing, so that was really nice of him. And so with those two things changed, I think this might actually turn into a pretty cool bike. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to fix this up, replace those parts, and then we'll just see what happens. But I'm thinking maybe that's something that we're going to get back to in a future video. And so for this episode, I think we are pretty much done. If you have any info on this, as far as what year this came out, or, you know, it would be interesting to know. I think it's from 2014, but I'm trying to Google this, and Blank has essentially made a whole different model of bikes, a whole different, you know, different types of colors. Checking online, it's hard to get a sort of price range for this, but I think that generally when these are new, they will go for something like 500 UK pounds or $400-500 US, something like that. So with this in mind, I mean, the listing price that I saw on Marketplace was 2,000 Swedish crowns, that's 200 euro, slashed down to 150 euro. I think that's a pretty decent price on the secondhand market with this shape. So, I mean, to go from that down to 30 euro, I mean, I would have been an idiot if I passed this up. But I'm rambling, and this is the first episode. So I just wanted to show you this bike, tell you a little bit about the backstory of how I got it. And for future episodes, I think we're just gonna start fixing stuff up. Maybe, you know, like add even modifications. I don't know where this is going, but I figured I would want to make a official sort of series about it. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, hope to see you all next time.